Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope all of you will be fine. Today's topic of discussion is diuretics. First of all, I am going to tell you diuretics, in which conditions we use diuretics. And here I have enumerated these certain conditions in which we use these diuretics as a treatment. Number one is the edema, which may be due to chronic heart failure, it may be due to pregnancy, and it may be nutritional. We can use them in nephrotic syndrome, similarly diabetes insipidus. We can use to treat mild to moderate hypertension. We use certain diuretics in cirrhosis of liver. We will discuss when we are going to forward. And also we can use them to lower the intracellular and CSF pressures. All these conditions we will discuss as we will discuss the different classes of different diuretics. First of all, you should have knowledge of physiology of the kidneys so that you can better understand the topic of diuretics. So our kidney perform three kinds of functions. Number one is the glomerular filtration. Number two is the tubular reabsorption, and number three is the tubular secretion. This is the diagrammatic picture. You can see how kidney excrete different substances from our body. So it is the glomerular filtration, number two is the tubular reabsorption, and number three is the tubular secretion, and the end amount is the amount of solute excreted. Excuse me. Again, this is the picture that is describing how the kidney excrete from our body urine as well as different substances. Now we will come on our main topic, that is diuretics. Diuretics act on different segments of the kidney, so they have different mechanism of action because different segments of the kidney perform different functions. There is different reabsorption of salt and water, and it is different in all four segments of the kidney. So therefore the diuretics that act on these segments, they have different mechanism of action. The most common point is that most of the diuretics act from the luminal side of the membrane. So these drugs must be present in the urine. This is very important. That is, they act on luminal side of the membrane. So they must be present in the urine. These diuretics are filtered at the glomerulus. Some of them are also secreted by the weak acid secretory system present in the proximal tubule. There is one such exception, and this exception is with aldosterone receptor antagonist. Aldosterone receptor antagonist is a diuretic, and it enters the CCT from the basolateral side. I have told you that most of the diuretics act from the luminal side. Exception is with aldosterone receptor antagonist that enters the cortical collecting tubule, that is CCT, from the basolateral side. This is the exception. You may be asked in your viva, or you may be asked in MCQs. This picture is present in your CADSync, and it very beautifully it explains the site of action of different diuretics. On my left hand you can see there is a enumeration of about 6 types of diuretics. These are the types of diuretics, and from this you can see that the first one is the acetazolamide, and you can see that where acetazolamide act with number 1 and how it acts and what it does do. You can see acetazolamide is excreting sodium bicarbonate and water. Similarly, you can see osmotic diuretics. Osmotic diuretics excrete water. You can see where 2, 2 and 2 are written. You can see here it is acting on outer medulla. You can see here the osmotic diuretics are acting on loop of Henle. Similarly, you can see that osmotic diuretics are also acting on collecting ducts. Similarly, next type is the loop agents. You can see where loop agents are acting on thick ascending limb of loop of family, and they are excreting potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. You can better understand all these things when you have read all the diuretics in detail. Then you can see where thiazide diuretics are acting. You can see thiazide is on 4 number. You can see here is the thiazide diuretics are acting and they are going to excrete sodium chloride. Similarly, you can see ADH antagonist. ADH antagonist is going to act here and they are excreting water. We will discuss all these diuretics one by one, then you can better understand this picture. And this is very beautiful picture to understand the mechanism of action as well as site of action of different classes of diuretics. This is also a tabulated form. I have mentioned here site of action as well as their mechanism of action. I am not going to give them detail here because I am going to discuss them with one by one. So first of all, I will discuss with you the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. The drug name is acetazolamide. First of all, we will discuss their mechanism of action. I will tell you these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors produce self-limited diuresis that occurs for about 2 to 3 days. After 2 to 3 days, they do not act as an diuretic. Some compensatory mechanisms takes place in the body so that their diuretic action is self-limited within 2 to 3 days. Now, point is here, carbonic anhydrase is present in your body and it is present in your kidney as well as it is present in your eye as well as it is also present in your cerebrospinal fluid. So keep remember the carbonic anhydrase is present in your kidneys and what it catalyzes, it causes conversion of carbon dioxide and water to carbonic acid, that is H2CO3. Now the diuretic name is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. It means that carbonic anhydrase inhibitor diuretic will inhibit this carbonic anhydrase. So when it will inhibit this carbonic anhydrase, this reaction will not take place. As a result, hydrogen ion is produced by the breakdown of this carbonic acid and this hydrogen ion is exchanged for sodium and it also combined with bicarbonate ion in the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule. It means that carbonic anhydrase inhibitor act on proximal convoluted tubule. So they cause inhibition of bicarbonate reabsorption. Moreover, another point is that they reduces the sodium hydrogen exchange. So sodium bicarbonate is excreted along with water. So what they do? They inhibit this carbonic anhydrase. As a result, this hydrogen ion that is produced by the breakdown of this is not exchanged for the sodium. So they combine with HCO3 in the lumen of the proximal convoluted tubule. So inhibition of this causes bicarbonate reabsorption inhibition. This reduces the sodium hydrogen exchange and as a result this sodium bicarbonate is excreted along with water. This is the diagrammatic picture. You can better understand here. This is the luminal side and this is the basolateral side. You can see here this is Ca means that carbonic anhydrase. This enzyme is present here and what it does, it combines the carbon dioxide and water and forms carbonic acid. When this is inhibited, this will not be produced and this will not dissociate to form hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. So hydrogen bicarbonate will not be available for exchange for potassium and hydrogen will not be available for exchange of sodium. So sodium will remain here in the lumen. This sodium will combine with this bicarbonate and sodium bicarbonate is excreted along with water outside the body. I am again repeating. Normally in your proximal convoluted tubule, carbonic anhydrase combines the carbon dioxide and water to form carbonic acid. This carbonic acid then dissociates into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. Kidney uses these bicarbonate ions on the basolateral side for exchange with potassium, and on the other side kidney uses these hydrogen ions for exchange with sodium. So from the lumen, sodium comes inside the proximal convoluted tubule, and from here it goes into the blood. And when sodium goes, along with this sodium, chloride also goes, along with the sodium, water also goes. But when we use carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, this reaction does not take place. So there will be no bicarbonate to exchange with potassium. There will be no hydrogen to exchange with sodium. So sodium will stay in the lumen. This sodium will combine with this and form sodium bicarbonate, and with this sodium bicarbonate along with water will be excreted from the body. So body will get rid of sodium. Body will get rid of water. This is the reason why we say carbonic anhydrase inhibitor as a diuretic. I hope you can better understand from this picture, and you can, if you are going to ask in your question paper, write down mechanism of action. If you produce this diagram, this will be sufficient to explain your answer. Now we are going to discuss adverse effects and contraindications of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So first of all, these causes metabolic acidosis. Why? We have discussed their mechanism of action because they are going to lose sodium bicarbonate. Your sodium bicarbonate is losing alkali. Sodium bicarbonate is losing from your body. So body will experience metabolic acidosis. Number two side effect is renal stones, that are phosphates and calcium stones, because it is excreting sodium bicarbonate and urine is alkaline. So these salts precipitate on this pH. So patient can experience renal stone. Similarly, renal potassium wasting, because sodium bicarbonate enhances potassium secretion. So body can experience more potassium will be secreted, so there will be renal potassium wasting. I have already told you diuresis is self-limiting within 2 to 3 days, because compensatory mechanisms present in your body will compensate for this loss of sodium bicarbonate. So it will happen only for 2 to 3 days. After that, diuresis will not be as sufficient as it was on first day or second day. Acute adverse effects are drowsiness, paresthesia, disorientation, and renal stone. This is because of urine alkalinization. These agents are contraindicated in liver cirrhosis. You may be asked why. Reason is that carbonic anhydrase inhibitors inhibit conversion of ammonia to NH4. So there will be accumulation of ammonia in patients of liver cirrhosis. When this level of ammonia is increased in patients of liver cirrhosis, these patients will go in encephalopathy. That is a state in which patient will go in coma. So don't use these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors in patients of liver cirrhosis. Reason? Reason is that they block the conversion of ammonia to this NH4. So there will be accumulation of this, and this accumulation will lead to encephalopathy, and it worsens the liver cirrhosis. Now comes the indications. We use them glaucoma. I have told you carbonic anhydrase inhibitor enzyme is also present in eye. In the eye, carbonic anhydrase produces aqueous humor, causes secretion of bicarbonate in the aqueous secretion. When we use carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, so this bicarbonate will not be secreted in the aqueous humor. The production of aqueous humor will decrease and the glaucoma will be treated. You better know that when we treat the glaucoma, we have two types of strategies. Either we decrease the production of aqueous humor, and number two, we can increase the flow of aqueous humor. Both of these strategies treat the glaucoma. So in case of carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors decrease the production of aqueous humor by decreasing the secretion of bicarbonate in the aqueous humor along with water. So these carbonic anhydrase are used in the treatment of glaucoma. We can use orally as acetazolamide, but nowadays only topical drugs are used. These are dorzolamide or brinzolamide. Number two indication is mountain sickness. As you know, this occurs at high altitude because they inhibit the secretion of bicarbonate by the chloride plexus. I have told you carbonic anhydrase is present in cerebrospinal fluid. So when you inhibit this enzyme, there will be no secretion of bicarbonate in the cerebrospinal fluid. The production of cerebrospinal fluid will decrease and it will improve the sign and symptoms of mountain sickness. Moreover, acidosis of cerebrospinal fluid results in hyperventilation. Number three indication is urine alkalinization. Though they prevent the uric acid and cystine stones. If you alkalinize the urine, you can prevent uric acid and cystine stones because they precipitate in acidic pH. So if you are going to alkalinize the urine with use of these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, and how carbonic anhydrase inhibitors alkalinize the urine because they excrete sodium bicarbonate. Alkali is present in the urine. So we can prevent uric acid and cystine stones. They are used for their diuretic effect only if edema is accompanied by significant metabolic alkalosis. If patient has edema and also metabolic alkalosis, in this situation, if we use carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, they may be a better diuretic because they produce metabolic acidosis. I am going to again explain why we use in glaucoma. The silvery body of the eye secretes bicarbonates from the blood into the aqueous humor. So inhibition of carbonic anhydrase enzyme leads to decrease in intraocular. Similarly, in acute mountain sickness that usually occurs when you ascend above 3000 meters, and the sign symptoms are weakness, dizziness, insomnia, headache and nausea. Patient may progress to pulmonary or cerebral edema, and this is life threatening. So by decreasing the cerebrospinal fluid formation and by decreasing the pH of the cerebrospinal fluid, because these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors are going to prevent the secretion of bicarbonate, so they will decrease the cerebrospinal fluid pH, so the brain will lead to increased ventilation and the patient's sign and symptoms will improve. I have already told you we use them to alkalinize the urine, so there will be uric acid, cystine and other weak acids are easily absorbed from the acidic urine. When you use carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, urine will alkalinize and this uric acid, cystine and other weak acids are not going to absorb, and this leads to their excretion. Why we use them in metabolic alkalosis? In respiratory acidosis, there is metabolic alkalosis. All you know well by the knowledge of your physiology. Whenever there is respiratory acidosis, it is accompanied by metabolic alkalosis. So you can correct this by using carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Similarly, in patients with severe heart failure, we use excessive diuretics to get rid of water from the body. So these conditions produce metabolic alkalosis. If in this situation we use carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, we can correct metabolic alkalosis. We can use them as an adjuvant in the treatment of epilepsy because in epilepsy we want to increase the threshold, seizure threshold. So we can do this with these carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. How we can produce hyperpolarization? How we can produce hyperpolarization? By producing a shift to the extracellular compartment. This will buffer the acid-base status and it causes hyperpolarization. As a result, there will be increase in the seizure threshold, so we use them as an adjuvant. Similarly, we can use in hypokalemic or hyperkalemic periodic paralysis. We can use to increase the urinary phosphate because you know well the phosphates precipitate in the acidic urine, But with carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, there is alkalinization of urine, so phosphate will be excreted outside the body. Thank you. This was all about the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Tomorrow we will discuss other classes of the diuretics.